welcome to TMZ Live. We have more information, limited though, based on our promises to keep things confidential.
Right. More information about that alleged ransom note that came into this newsroom 24 hours ago.
So we contacted the sheriff in late morning yesterday and ultimately very quickly gave them this note that we received in which they are demanding a lot of money in exchange for the return of Nancy Guthrie. And there is an address, a Bitcoin address, which is a real address, and many other things in this letter. Well, in the afternoon yesterday, we got a call from the FBI.
Right. And we know the sheriff had said very publicly that they were taking this alleged ransom note seriously, and that they were going to be looking into this. And clearly, one of the first calls they made was to the FBI, and then the FBI wanted to know what we knew.
So we had a fairly long conversation. Actually, the sheriff, along with the FBI, were on the phone with us. And we're not going to share the details of what they were asking, but it's just interesting. And again, we don't know if this is a real ransom note. We received it. We forwarded it on to authorities. The authorities then showed it or gave it to the Guthrie family. But that's as much as we know. Now, that's what's interesting about this is the sheriff appearing on Savannah's show, the Today Show today, and talking about what he believes is the status of Nancy Guthrie.
We have nothing else to go on but the belief that she is here. She's present, she's alive, and we want to save her.
And again, there's a little bit of tea leaf reading that has to be done here because for good reasons, the police aren't revealing everything. They're not putting all the cards out on the table. But for him to say we can only go on the belief that she is here, that she's alive. So there must be that makes me think that there's something they've seen, some evidence that leads them to believe that.
And the thing that I'm thinking of, and we don't want to be in the business of overthinking, but he hedges this and says, as far as we know, we have every reason to believe she's alive. If they have a suspect who believe they did real harm to Nancy, they would not say they have every reason if they had a suspect.
Right.
So it's almost like, and we don't know whether the sheriff is parsing as carefully as we're suggesting, but if you take it literally, do they have every reason to believe she's still alive? That would seem to eliminate somebody who abducted her for a terrible reason.
I mean, like, in a weird way.
There's no good reason.
Right, and as we stress, we don't know whether this alleged ransom note is legit. But in a weird way, if it is legit, it does offer some hope, right? That because if someone really has abducted her and is holding her ransom, that means they're offering to return her in exchange for whatever they want. And
absolutely. If there's a financial motive to the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, if that is what happened, then they can operate under the assumption that she is safe and sound and that they are looking for this money and so forth in order to return her safely. And I think that you're reading tea leaves here, but the FBI calling our newsroom is an indication that they're inundated with tips and information, and a lot of it is run down quickly and discarded as not helpful. Other tips are run down sort of more seriously
and lead to other things like making more.
That's right. This doesn't say that this is legitimate or authentic or anything, because you would pass over a serious tip like this to maybe the FBI in any circumstances, but it does beg the question that this could be something that is more substantive than just your average piece of information.
But there are two things in my head that suggest maybe it's not ransom and maybe this note's not legit. One is, typically, when somebody sends a ransom note, they don't wait 3 days before doing it. The clock is immediately ticking.
Right.
And number two, that when people do this, they often want to show proof of life. And it could be a video, it could be an audio, and none of that has surfaced. So those are two things, to me, that suggest maybe it is not a ransom.
I think that's a fair point, right? I mean, it's hard to hold someone who you've abducted and the clock is ticking and you probably wouldn't wait. Time is of the essence when you have abducted someone that you need to get it done.
I will say there's one more thing that the FBI and the Pima County detectives are certainly looking at. there was another alleged ransom note sent to a local TV station in Tucson.
Right.
I don't know what their note looked like, but I'm sure that the authorities are comparing the one that came to our newsroom with the one that came to their newsroom.
We don't know. We don't know if it's the same note.
Right. We don't. But I'm saying that's going to tell them something also that they're not sharing with us. But the law enforcement is going to know. They're going to have a feeling about these ransom notes based on how similar they are, or if they're exactly the same, or if they're completely different. That would lead them to think
that's right.
Maybe these are hoaxes.
And this sheriff is very careful, obviously, about what he's sharing publicly. He doesn't want to compromise his investigation in any way.
Robin from North Carolina. This is deeply concerning. She's an 84-year-old woman who needs daily medication to live. There was blood at the crime scene, smashed windows, and now there's conflicting reports about a suspect. I truly hope she's okay and found safe. However, this happens to women every day in this country, and they don't get this kind of national attention. It's important to recognize that women and girls are not safe, whether they're on the street or in their homes. And it's not usually a stranger, and it is not usually an illegal immigrant. It is usually someone they know.
It could be somebody they know. Yeah. I mean, look, there are not a lot of reasons why people typically do something like this. So it could be somebody they know. It could be ransom.
Well, what you just said.
I want to suggest something that Charles and I have talked about yesterday a lot. That, you know, it's not like Nancy Guthrie is this high-profile person. And it almost feels like it hatched in Tucson or around
it. It has to be a local. It doesn't. She's not that public of a persona that someone's traveling from wherever to pull off this caper. It is. It feels like it's somebody local.
That's just what we've been talking about.
We have broken the code. We have broken the code in Washington, D.C. If you want to know how people really feel, how politicians really feel, you can't watch proceedings
on the floor of the House.
On the House. That's all for show.
House schmouse. You got to go to the House of Reps. We are not talking about the House of Representatives. We are talking reps, as in dumbbells and barbells. Baby. Yeah, because there is a gym in the House that only members are allowed to work out in. And there are Democrats and Republicans, and they talk a lot of crap.
That's what we learned from Congressman Eric Swalwell, the congressman from California who is now running for governor of California. But we ran into him in D.C. and asked him about what goes down in the House of Reps. This is really, really interesting.
The truth really comes out in the congressional gym. Tell me. You know, Republicans and Democrats work out together. That's where I see who they really are, and it's quite frustrating because, you know, the that they talk about the president and knowing that what he's doing is wrong, but you also hear the fear that they're hearing at home. Don't speak up. Don't be the tallest poppy in the field, as one of them said. Basically, protect your family, because when you go after this guy, the violence comes and the threats come. And I think it's mostly rooted in fear. I used to think it's that they were afraid of losing their job. And I think that might be a little bit of it, but I think it's more, it's the fear that they've expressed to me that if they speak out against Donald Trump, you know, he sends his Twitter army at them and their lives change. And, you know, it's a sad state of affairs that the president has brought that. But I also think, you know what, as I said, maybe you should get a different job. Maybe this isn't the arena.
So it's really interesting about that. A couple of things. One is just that they are more open, you know, because look, we've heard, you know, our recon is that, you know, there are a lot of Republicans who privately say things that they don't say publicly about the administration. But what I found really interesting about Swalwell, he's not saying it's even so much Trump will have revenge on them. He's saying that there are people out there that will literally risk the safety of them and their family. And that was what I found really interesting.
I think this rings as such nonsense to me. So you're telling me that you've got a Republican congressman who is in the gym, who was either speaking to or within earshot of Eric Swalwell, who he could not find a camera fast enough. The guy loves attention. That they're going to talk crap about Trump, and then he's going to go blab it to the world. Why don't they just say it?
Okay, hold on. But clearly there's a code that he didn't he didn't say anybody's name, right? He didn't say who the people were.
Sure, I agree.
Right?
So I think he's trying to bait Trump into, look, the guy's trying to desperately win an election right now.
By the way, I also think this is true when there's a Democrat in the presidency.
Right.
There are Democratic congressmen who are there talking crap about the president.
They did with Joe Biden.
Yes.
And hold on. They talked
about
there were people who in the Democratic Party who would talk about Joe Biden not having the mental competence to do the job
publicly. Then they would say, no, we're with it.
I just don't know. They would do it in front of the opposition.
Hold on. What's more improbable to you?
Yeah.
Republican congressman confessing to a Democratic congressman that he doesn't like Donald Trump, or say a Republican congressman telling me that.
I think it's more likely they would tell you.
More likely they would tell me.
Absolutely.
They would tell the media?
Here's the thing.
Yes.
A couple
he's a steel trap compared to Eric Swalwell.
I will tell you, a couple have kind of talked to me.
Right.
And I don't, if it's off the record, I don't say it. But they have
case closed.
They have a code. They have a code. That what happens in the gym stays. He even said that. What happens in the gym stays in the gym.
Right.
But he okay, fine. But he had to put it out there to try and embarrass Trump, to make Trump look like he was weak, like he doesn't have support of the GOP politicians.
It was content.
It was good content.
I'm Chad in Birmingham, Alabama, and Eric Swalwell isn't saying anything we already didn't know. This isn't new news. He's just confirming that Republicans care more about perceived power than representing their constituents. If Eric wants to be a hero, he should name the Republicans who are saying this behind closed doors. Otherwise, he's complicit in the damage that Republicans are causing to our democratic institutions. And I lived in D.C. for a minute. I have a lot of friends who work on Capitol Hill, and that is absolutely correct, that there is a code that when things are said behind closed doors in D.C., they protect each other's backs.
But Chad, if he were to do that, and he actually talked to us about this, if he says the names, now he's ruining his ability to make any deals, right? And that's ultimately what you want them to be able to do, that even if it means they're talking behind the scenes, that they are actually talking. And otherwise, nothing gets done, and arguably, not a lot's getting done lately.
Coming up.
The break in the David case that prosecutors wanted, at least, finally happened today. The guy they desperately wanted to go before the grand jury had his day. We don't know what was said or what happened in there.
But he was only there for 40 minutes.
Right.
40 minutes is shockingly short. It does not make sense to me.
Be right back.
Well, the break in the David case that prosecutors wanted, at least, finally happened today. The guy they desperately wanted to go before the grand jury had his day. David's friend, Neo, this is the guy, he's a famous streamer, and we told you a couple of weeks ago, he was arrested in Montana at his mother's home, and he was arrested on an outstanding warrant for failure to appear as a witness. This is clearly the case they were talking about now, because we got video of Neo heading into the courthouse in downtown LA, where we believe he was before the grand jury. Of course, grand jury proceedings are kept secret. We don't know what was said or what happened in there.
But he was only there for 40 minutes.
Right.
And I will say this, that the DA in the case who is running the grand jury, her name is Beth Silverman. She is a hyper-aggressive lawyer in these proceedings. And we have heard and overheard, people in the hallways talking about how she was just going after certain people. And she is a bulldog in that courtroom. And so you would think that if she is trying to grill Neo, and wanted it so much so that she had him extradited from Montana, or at least she had him arrested in Montana, that she had a lot of questions for this guy, and that this was going to last a long time, just as some of the other witnesses lasted a long time. 40 minutes is shockingly short. To me, and I am guessing here because I don't know, and people take the fifth for all sorts of reasons, but it is hard to believe that Beth Silverman had all of these questions asked in 40 minutes. It does not make sense to me.
And so if he took the 5th. This was the last person that we had heard of anyway. And again, it's a grand jury proceeding, so we don't know what's going on. But this was the date we had heard a while ago. In fact, we reported that that February 4th was the day that they were hoping to have a witness before the grand jury.
Which is weird because we heard that in December and we thought, why are they waiting?
Why did they wait until February?
So that's, I mean, the only thing that made sense to me was, okay, this is only 40 minutes and you flew this guy out from Montana. Do you think she might have been just so much of a bulldog that she was like not messing around, just like bam, 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 like these are all the questions?
Not the way she's operated the entire grand jury. I mean, we've seen people in the hallways, you know, talking about Bush. She would just not let things go.
Right, yeah.
No, so, 40 minutes. For a good friend,
yeah.
when David is the suspect in this case,
she would have all sorts of questions.
No way.
We've been saying all along, we know that David is their suspect, but we've been wondering why is it taking so long to button up the case where they feel they have enough to arrest him. And
you're saying so long. That's CSI talk. That's but it is CSI talk. Sometimes, you know, you think that things get buttoned up neatly, very quickly. They don't. I mean, sometimes these things take a long time. What we were told early on, and I believe this from the people we spoke to in law enforcement, this is a very complicated case. Remember that we know they are making a big deal of a trip that David allegedly took to a remote area of Santa Barbara County. In the middle of the night and spent a couple of hours there. So I don't know what they're suggesting, but everything I'm told is they are suggesting that Celeste was there in some form at that point. So how does she end up back in Los Angeles months later in the trunk of his Tesla? So this is a tough one. What we were told was they believe other people were involved in some respect. So I think this is a really complicated case for them. I really do.
I will try to be less CSI.
But I want to just say one more thing about Neo. We don't know what happened in that room. The only reason I'm suggesting a possibility is the Fifth Amendment is just the brevity of this testimony.
Nicholas Wooldridge, Las Vegas, Nevada. So when we know that Neo Langston was called to the grand jury and he didn't show up the first time, he was picked up on a warrant in Montana. Now, when somebody testifies at the grand jury, they're automatically given immunity unless they waive immunity. So it tells me if the government's calling, or if the state of California is calling him as a witness in the grand jury proceeding, he is not a target of the investigation, but he is a subject. He is a witness, and whatever he testified to at the grand jury, so long as he's answering a question and giving an answer, that answer that he gives, he gets immunity for it.
Except what you're suggesting is nobody would ever have a reason to take the Fifth in a grand jury testimony, yet people do all the time.
Well, normally, before you even testify, they're going to want you to try to waive your Fifth Amendment privilege. And if you're not willing to waive it just by testifying in the grand jury, you get immunity for the stuff that you're talking about. So it tells me that if the state's calling him as a witness to the grand jury, unless there's some cooperation agreement, they don't consider him to be like a target of the investigation, but they're using him to gather information against D4VD.
Well, I will say he is not a cooperative witness because they had to arrest him to get him there.
Well, Halle Berry is waiting on a call. Not from me. I wish she was waiting on a call from me.
Sorry.
No, she is still waiting on a call from Governor Gavin Newsom. Remember, back in December, Halle very publicly called him out for not signing into law some funding that would have aided in menopause research here in California. And she called him out about it while at an event in New York. And then we got him out at the airport when he was leaving New York, and he said, oh, it's all been worked out. I've spoken to her people. She just didn't know that it was all worked out, and it's all in the next budget. It's going to be great. So, end of story, right? No.
Nope.
Halle Berry told The Cut that absolutely nothing has happened with the governor, and she's trying to, she is shaming him over it. She said, it's disturbing when people say they're going to do things, and then they don't. But he heard what I said. If he is going to run to be our next president, he can't sleep on women. Wake up, Gavin.
So what Gavin Newsom did say is it's going to be in the next budget.
Next budget.
That hasn't happened yet. So I'm not sure.
So we wouldn't know, right?
We wouldn't know now because the next budget, they're not approving that until what? March, April, May?
Right. So
but maybe she was saying that she expected Gavin to kind of personally reach out to her and have a conversation. That's exactly what she said.
That's a little bit of a flex.
Is it a flex?
Yeah, why does she need a phone call?
Because she's saying that why would he go out and say that we were going to reconcile it and we talked and he never even reached out for a phone call, an email, a text message? Then don't go as far if you're Gavin to say, oh, we've reached out and no, you haven't.
Yeah, but hold your horses, Halle. I mean,
he said something she lied.
Hold your horses in that. See what he does with the budget. If he puts
but why would he say that? We reached out
because
and
he said, I'm going to do it. He said, I am going to do it. And let's see.
In addition to.
What if he does it? What if he does it? Okay, she didn't get a phone call.
All right, if he does it.
That's all she's saying.
If he does it,
that's
great.
all she said.
But at this point, I get why she would be skeptical whether a politician said something on camera, but then didn't actually say it to me on the phone, say it to me personally.
But he's gone.
I would be skeptical too.
He's on record publicly saying it's going to be in the budget. If it's not, she can destroy him. And if it is,
here's my final point.
Here's
my final point. If you have an invitation to call Halle Berry and she's waiting for your call, why would you never call her?
That's a fair point.
Coming up.
Well, as if Quinton Aaron, the star of The Blind Side, was not going through enough just with his health, they have now discovered that something isn't what they thought it was when it comes to Quinton's wife.
Be right back.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
BB Rexa was looking hot on vacation.
Look at the water, too. Did you just say look at the water?
I mean, I'll be honest, that is what I was looking at.
TMZ!
Well, as if Quinton Aaron, the star of The Blind Side, was not going through enough just with his health. You remember we reported that he had suffered a spinal stroke. He is still in the hospital. He was on partial life support to help him breathe for a while. And his family is hoping he's going to make a full recovery. But in the middle of dealing with all of that, they have now discovered that something isn't what they thought it was when it comes to Quinton's wife. A woman named Margarita. And she, according to the family, is not actually his wife, and in fact, is married to someone else. So how in the world do they not know this? How do they not know?
Well, but there's an issue here. The issue is who's making medical decisions for Quinton? She is not married to him, so
she has acknowledged that, by the way. We've spoken to her, and
so she does not automatically have any kind of right to make medical decisions. It would either be next of kin or somebody who might have a power of attorney to make medical decisions.
Right.
It would be one of those two, and the question then is who's making the medical decisions?
Now,
because it's hard for me to believe that unless she's just lying to the hospital, that the hospital's just blindly listening to her.
Just blindly listening to her. I mean, there are people in Quinton's family who've said to us that's their concern, that she is making decisions.
Yeah,
but
so
she's telling you something different.
Yeah, so Aaron's brother, Jared, gave us a statement basically saying that he fears for his brother's life because the whole family had been questioning who Margarita is. None of them were at this, alleged wedding. So when the family discovered that she was not, in fact, a legal wife, now they're worried, has she been making medical decisions? And that's what the brother is accusing her of. However, like you guys said, we spoke to Margarita, who says that she hasn't been making any medical decisions. But the family is saying, they really don't want her there. They feel like there's a lot of questions revolving around who she is.
Is he conscious?
So we're told that he is somewhat conscious and aware, but he is still in very serious condition.
Well, no, but if he's conscious enough
to have a conversation with them to say
so
he could make the decisions himself.
Yes. But the brother is saying he's not looping in Quinton about all this family drama because he's worried it's going to affect his health. So it's unclear exactly, who's really making the big calls when it comes to his health. It could be him, but it doesn't sound like they don't really want to overwhelm him as well as he's recovering from a very serious medical situation.
Is Jared at the hospital
So actually, that's another thing. The family is saying that none of them have been able to see Quinton.
But here's what doesn't make sense. That if they're concerned about this, all they have to do is call the hospital and say, she's not married to him and she doesn't have a power of attorney, so she should not be making decisions. And the hospital's
right, and
going
whoever
to do the
does
right
have
thing.
the power of attorney is to make themselves
or next of kin, or next of kin.
Right.
So, my name is Anusha. I'm from Southern California. And first of all, I think it's a cause for concern when her family is also confirming the same story, not his family, her family. And the fact that no one really knows what's going on, like you would really have to wonder, what is she going to gain from it? I think that's the real question to be asked, because that really is the question here.
Coming up.
Well, Melinda Gates said that her ex-husband, Bill, needed to answer some of the questions that people have about him and Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know that he's doing this because Melinda said he needed to answer, but
it's not coincidental.
But he has answered.
Be right back.
Well, Melinda Gates said that her ex-husband, Bill, needed to answer some of the questions that people have about him and Jeffrey Epstein, their relationship, which has now been a new topic of conversation because of the Epstein files and some of the documents that were released that included Bill's name and some allegations about him that Jeffrey Epstein apparently made in an email that he wrote to himself saying that Bill had hooked up with some Russian girls that Epstein introduced him to and may have even contracted an STD. Bill Gates, I don't know that he's doing this because Melinda said he needed to answer, but
it's not coincidental.
But he has answered this. He did an interview with 9 News in Australia and indeed talked about Epstein, how they met, and what the nature of their relationship was.
I met Jeffrey in 2011, so over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I've said many times, but I'll say again, I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him. Apparently, Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. You know, was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
So the email that he's talking about is one Jeffrey Epstein wrote, as Bill Gates said, to himself. Now Bill is saying never sent it to Bill.
We were wondering that.
But it's a blackmail email. I mean, that's very clear that it's an email that would list the various things that Charles just mentioned in some detail. So he's saying, look, that was never sent. It's not true. And it is true that Jeffrey Epstein, apparently he knew a lot of rich people, especially in New York. And, because he knew them doesn't mean they did anything. Bill Gates, there are some specifics in there. What I find interesting is it felt like, and I'm not judging it, but it felt like Melinda was not buying it.
It seems entirely true. We know that Melinda has accused him of adultery in the past. He's even admitted to adultery in the past.
But the Epstein stuff.
But the Epstein stuff, right, she's not buying it. It does seem that the self-serving nature of what Jeffrey Epstein was saying seems a little far-fetched. We talked about it a little bit, saying that he was trying to get prescription medications to slip from Epstein to slip into her food.
You couldn't
you
get it
go to
from
1,000
a doctor.
doctors to get that. Why would you go to a scumbag like Epstein to get it?
Right.
That seems untrue.
And then know that he would have that over you.
Right.
But Epstein, but Melinda she doesn't know what to believe, but she doesn't believe him when his denials.
Well, when you listen, she goes, it's not so much I don't get it. It's like she kind of feels like some things are true, and it may not even be stuff that is in the files, and maybe it's something that she knows or believes.
Right. Yeah.
But she believes, at least my takeaway from listening to her interview is, she believes there's something that happened between Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein that she cannot abide by.
Can I just offer another view of that? Because what she said was, it brings back really awful feelings and memories for me I mean, maybe it's just the adultery, right? That whether or not, and Bill Gates is denying that that never happened with anyone that Epstein introduced him to, but for Melinda, it just brings up the adultery that he has admitted to.
Maybe, we don't know.
Maybe that's what
she never said. But it feels like
well, she did say it goes back to the trauma that she suffered at Bill's hands. We got to be talking about
my only point is, Bill Gates is saying, I socialized with him, I needed him to help raise money for his charities, and I regret it. She seems to think it's something different.
Yeah. Shield Seraphim, Miami, Florida, will always have the excuse as to why they were affiliated with Epstein, whether they're on the island, the flight logs, etc. I mean, Harvey Levin, you yourself were mentioned in the files by name. Mike Citrick, a crisis PR manager, calls you a good friend in an email to Jeffrey Epstein. I guess if Bill Gates has his excuse, what's yours?
But that's true, that Mike Citrick said that I was a good friend of Mike Citrick's.
Right.
Which I know Mike Citrick. I've met him once. But
we certainly have talked to Mike Citrick, but that's okay. Yes.
And so?
But in the email, he's talking about how we can get TMZ to shift coverage in order to benefit Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
If you really only met him once and he wasn't really a good friend, then why is he talking about shifting TMZ's media coverage?
Well, he didn't, though.
But he
didn't shift it. He didn't, as far as I remember, he never called.
And just so people understand, Mike Citrick is talking to someone who's a potential client, so he's trying to sell him on, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. But check the record, that never happened.
Right.
While there's all this attention, deservedly, on Savannah Guthrie and the apparent abduction of her mother, another celeb is dealing with a missing persons case. That is Lil Jon, who says his son went missing in Georgia yesterday. And this is a different sort of case. What the facts that we know at this point is that he left home on his own, but no one's seen or heard from him since he left. And I'm not. What wasn't clear to me is why he left the home.
They announced this on Tuesday. It's unclear exactly when he actually left the home, but
they just announced.
They announced the missing persons thing yesterday. The thing that's odd about this is they say he doesn't have a cell phone on him. He could be disoriented, and no one has seen him since he left the home. So we
don't know when he left.
No, we reached out to Lil Jon. All their people are saying essentially is they're asking for privacy and prayers. It's obviously a really bad situation here because they don't know where his son is. So that's kind of where they're at. Obviously, he was following in his dad's footsteps and all that. So it's kind of, he was in the industry. And Lil Jon,
how old?
He's 28. Lil Jon spoke openly about how it's been so cool seeing his son kind of do what he does. But
when you say disoriented, why?
That's what authorities said. All they're saying is that he could be disoriented, but he wouldn't be a danger to the public. That's how they worded their verbiage.
I'm just wondering, was there a medical thing, or they didn't say?
They did not say.
Wow.
Mecca, North Carolina. To anyone missing a family member, it's never a good thing, especially during inclement weather. It makes it even more harder for anyone to search. Milton Police also stated that he is disoriented, which simply could mean that he has memory lapses, hallucinations, and difficulty focusing. And so right now, all we can do is offer prayer.
I never thought of that, but it's true about the weather.
Yes.
That it is just frigid there.
And not having his phone just makes it impossible, near impossible, just to be able, for even friends to be able to help the family about where he might be.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is never, ever been one to hold her tongue. We talked to her about someone who's become a bit of a polarizing figure.
A lightning rod.
That would be Nicki Minaj.
I don't know if it's because she looking for some papers for some people, or if she's looking for them other papers.
Be right back.
We are learning all sorts of things in D.C.
Yeah.
It's good to be back in D.C.
It is nice to be back.
And next up is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is never, ever been one to hold her tongue. She actually speaks her mind when they're having these hearings in Congress. But we talked to her about someone who's become a bit of a polarizing figure.
A lightning rod.
That would be Nicki Minaj. And obviously, we've been talking about Nicki Minaj suddenly becoming very political and showing up at all sorts of events with the president.
So we got her reaction to this, but don't just listen to her. Look at her expression when our photog first asked her the question.
I wanted to ask about Nicki Minaj, because she's like, you know, very in the news these days, has like, you're doing a face right now.
We don't mess with Nicki. I will be clear, I have always loved Cardi more.
Okay.
And clearly my instincts were right to love on Cardi more than Nicki. I just don't do sellouts. And especially with her being an immigrant, then deciding to go and cozy up to this administration that is specifically putting targets on the backs of immigrants and anyone who stands with them. I don't know if it's because she looking for some papers for some people, or if she's looking for them other papers, because, you know, I hear that she got family members that's got a little, you know, a few little issues, right?
You know how they're doing a Turning Points halftime show? Kid Rock is headlining. I assumed that Nicki was going to headline, but she's not even on the bill.
She may now understand her place as it relates to MAGA, but maybe she won't. Who knows?
So that was the most interesting part. She may understand her place when it comes to MAGA. What she's saying is, not going to put black people up there. I think that's what she's saying.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what she's saying. And who knows, maybe Nicki Minaj will end up showing up there. She's not on the bill, but I'm sorry. Congresswoman Crockett, I thought she was like having a fit. She's like, really, her face saying, don't ask me about her. Don't ask me about her. Why are we bringing this up?
Oh, it was
great.
That was classic. I loved it.
That reaction shows this is she's wading into a divide that's way bigger than left versus right.
It's
Barty gang versus Barb's.
Yeah.
You don't want to get involved in that, and when you choose your side, you don't.
But she chose a side. She said, "I've always been Team Cardi B."
Exactly. So the Barb's are going to come after her now.
I just think maybe she does listen to Cardi B. Maybe she has been a fan all along. But I also would not put it past the Congresswoman to just have that in her back pocket, knowing that if anyone asks me about Nicki Minaj, I'm playing the Cardi card immediately.
Nothing rankles Nicki Minaj more than Cardi B, and
Knows how
vice
to get,
versa. It's you stay out of that stay and fight.
Shoes get thrown, man.
Hey guys, Devin, Blue Illusional Podcast, Delaware. I think Jasmine Crockett was 100% on point. Nicki is a sellout. She cozied up to a dictator to get her immigration status shored up or whatever, and turns out it was just a memento. So she did all that shucking and jiving for absolutely no reason.
Oh God.
By the way, that's my new response. When you ask me a question, I'm just gonna be like.
Coming up.
It's almost time for the Olympics. Cannot wait for it to all begin. And NBC, as you would expect, is enlisting some celebrity help to promote their coverage. But the celebrity they got is confusing a lot of people.
Be right back.
It's almost time for the Olympics. Cannot wait for it to all begin. And NBC, as you would expect, is enlisting some celebrity help to promote their coverage. But the celebrity they got is confusing a lot of people, especially in Canada, because Tate McRae is a Canadian treasure. So what is she doing promoting Team USA? Watch.
A lot of people don't care.
Oh, hi. I'm a bit lost. Tate McRae. Nobody. Nobody's girl, that is. I'm trying to get to Milan for an amazing opening ceremony and meet Team USA. Then it's the weekend with America's best skating for gold and Lindsey Vonn's epic comeback. And back to the States for the big game, Super Bowl 60.
I don't get the outrage here because, number one, she's beautiful, so that changes a lot.
Well, she said, I want to meet Team USA.
Yeah, but so what? I mean, she's in Canada. Canada was a friend of ours. And so what? She's rooting for the United States. I mean,
they also did one with Dua Lipa, and she's also, and Dua Lipa's not American.
But I think the part of the issue here is that Tate McRae, a lot of her rise was tied to her being Canada's next big pop star and all that. She's from Calgary.
Well, she could be Canada's
People are saying you
next
should
big
be
pop
more
star.
proud of your country.
This is pretty obvious. Dua Lipa, Tate McRae, I don't know who else they've got doing the promos, but it seems like there's a pattern.
Yeah.
Let's just get really hot pop stars to do our promos, and who cares what country they're
from.
from.
Don't specify Lindsey Vonn or meeting Team USA. Say, I'm excited for
But they're
all
doing
the
it for
action.
NBC. which is carrying the Olympics in the U.S.
God, chilled, man.
Hi, my name is Claire. I'm from Orange County, California, and I agree. I think the people getting so up in arms about this need to pull their heads out of their butts, join the real world, and look around and realize, like, this is not a big deal at all. First of all, this ad was for watching the Olympics on NBC. It wasn't, like, paid for by Team USA itself. And also, like, it's an ad. She gets paid for this. For a big enough check, like, I would do an ad promoting Team North Korea. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. Preach. What else you guys want to talk about?
Would you talk to the owl, though?
Tanya on Eric Swallow. Eric Swallow needs to focus on himself because he used $200,000 of his campaign money for personal use, and stop trying to pin GOP on each other because we're the strongest in midterms. We're going to win just like we did the presidential election.
Do you really think that the Republicans have a strong edge to win the midterms?
I sure do.
That's
will
one view.
see.
That's one view.
One more.
Influencer, Seattle, 31 years old. Honestly, when we take a look at the case that's going on, it's really important that we remember to make sure all the facts of the case get presented to a judge, jury, and a court system before we make any assumptions.
You're talking about David.
Of course, yes. And the Celeste Rivas case, you know? It's important for us to remember this is a young girl. She was 14 at the time. So we really need to make sure that we have placed a lot of empathy in this whole case, but make sure that we allow the facts of the case to play through.
Well, they're definitely not rushing here. There is no rush to judgment, but we will see what happens.
My guess is they're bringing this in for a landing sooner rather than later.
Coming up.
Only in Florida.
Yes.
Only in Florida.
Only in Florida. Florida, you've seen the video of the iguanas. When they get really cold, they fall out of the trees. Now, there are places in Florida that are inviting people to put iguanas on the menu.
Be right back.
Only in Florida.
Yes.
Only in Florida.
Only in Florida. And I got to begin this by saying we are in no way advocating for what you're about to see. But you certainly have heard about the cold weather, the cold snap across most of the country. In Florida, you've seen the video of the iguanas. When they get really cold, they fall out of the trees. And they're not dead
They're
necessarily.
not dead. They revive. They've revived themselves. It's really a survival technique.
But some do die if they don't get warmed up in time. And now there are places in Florida that are inviting people to put iguanas on the menu.
If you bring iguanas to this place, they'll make you a pizza. Let's see if it's true.
Let's make an iguana pizza. We're gonna call this one the Everglades. This is the first iguana pizza in the history of mankind. Iguana, bacon, venison. Tear it up, big dog.
First bite, loaded with iguana.
Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
Florida, you have outdone yourself.
That is
sorry.
Just.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
You don't eat gator?
I have had alligator, yes.
Frog
I have.
legs?
Huh?
Frog legs? Gator?
Yes,
Come on.
I understand, but there's something about this. I mean, first of all, who knows what an iguana will do if you eat it, right?
What?
What
it does to your...
It's called chicken of the trees. I've heard it tastes like chicken, and it's probably
Chicken
really
of
good.
the tree?
Yeah, it's chicken of the trees.
We're done. Chicken of the trees. We gotta go.